Have you ever felt like a woman is pulling you closer, while at the exact same time pushing you away, and something about it doesn't feel like rejection? It feels intentional. That quiet tension you can't explain, that's not confusion, that's a game. And if you don't understand it, you will lose her without ever realizing you are actually winning. Before we go deeper, make sure you subscribe and like this video, because what I'm about to share isn't surface-level dating advice. This is the psychology most men never get access to. I'm going to speak to you directly, not as a stranger, but as someone who understands how women think beneath what they say. Because attraction is rarely obvious. In fact, the stronger it is, the more hidden it becomes. A woman who feels nothing will be simple, clear, predictable. But a woman who feels something dangerous, something that could pull her in, she becomes complex, strategic, silent. And that's where most men make their biggest mistake.
You think mixed signals mean disinterest. You think inconsistency means she's unsure.
But often it means she's very sure, and that scares her just enough to make her test you. A woman who likes you doesn't always reward you immediately. She studies you. She creates emotional distance just to see if you chase or if you remain grounded. She pulls back, not to lose you, but to measure your strength. Because deep attraction isn't built on comfort alone, it's built on tension, curiosity, and emotional control. And here's the truth most men aren't ready to hear. If she's completely easy with you from the start, there's a high chance she doesn't value you deeply. But if she creates small challenges, subtle distance, moments of unpredictability, she's inviting you into a psychological dance. One where she's asking without saying a word, "Are you strong enough to handle me?" The problem is, men react emotionally instead of intelligently. They overtext. They seek reassurance. They try to fix the situation. And in doing so, they fail the very test they didn't even know they were taking. What you're about to learn are the silent signs she's playing this game because she likes you. Not because she's toxic, not because she's manipulative, but because this is how attraction protects itself. And once you see it, you'll never misread her again.
She disappears,
and then comes back like nothing ever happened. Not with an apology, not with an explanation, just a simple message, casual, almost as if the silence between you never existed. And this is where most men feel that quiet sting in their chest. You wonder, if she liked me, why would she pull away like that? But what you don't see is that her silence was never about losing interest. It was about observing yours. A woman who is emotionally invested doesn't always move closer. Sometimes, she steps back to see what you'll do in the space she leaves behind. Will you panic? Will you chase? Will you double text and reveal that your emotional state depends on her presence? Or will you stay composed, steady, unaffected on the surface? Because to her, your reaction tells her everything she needs to know. When she pulls away and you immediately try to close the gap, you unknowingly shift the dynamic. You show her that she holds emotional control, and once that balance tilts too far, attraction begins to weaken. Not because she wants it to, but because she can feel it. But when you don't react impulsively, when you allow her space without losing your center, something changes in her perception of you. You become harder to read, more grounded, more valuable. This is the part that frustrates men, because it feels like you're being asked to do nothing when everything inside you wants to act. But emotional discipline is what separates the man she tests from the man she respects. Her silence is not empty. It's filled with questions she's too subtle to ask out loud. Does he need me? Does he collapse when I'm gone? Or does he continue being himself, with or without me? And when she returns, she's not just continuing the conversation, she's analyzing the version of you that existed while she was gone. If you greeted her return with frustration, neediness, or relief that feels too intense, she notices. But if you respond with calm presence, as if her absence didn't shake your foundation, she notices that even more. Because what she's really looking for isn't attention, it's emotional stability. So the next time she disappears and reappears, don't rush to fill the silence she created. Let her step back into your world, not the other way around. That's when the game begins to shift in your favor. She gives you attention, and then suddenly becomes slightly harder to reach. Not completely gone, not fully present either, just enough to make you notice the difference. A slower reply, a shorter message, a moment where she reads your words but doesn't respond immediately. And this is where most men start to overthink themselves into emotional exhaustion. But I want you to understand something important. This pattern is rarely random. When a woman is emotionally neutral, her behavior is consistent and low effort. But when she feels attraction mixed with uncertainty, she begins to regulate the pace of connection. Not to confuse you, but to control how fast her own emotions are developing. Because real attraction is risky for her too. If she lets herself get pulled in too quickly, she loses emotional control. So instead, she creates distance in small, almost invisible ways. Not enough to push you away completely, but enough to slow the emotional intensity building between you. And this is where your reaction defines everything. Most men misinterpret this as loss of interest. They start chasing harder, more messages, more effort, more emotional exposure. But what they don't realize is that they are amplifying the very thing she is trying to regulate. Because her distance was never a rejection, it was a filter. She is watching whether you become anxious in uncertainty or stable within it. A man who becomes emotionally reactive in these moments unintentionally teaches her something, that his confidence depends on her consistency. And once that belief forms, attraction begins to weaken from her side, even if she still likes him. But a man who remains steady, who does not change his tone, his energy, or his self-respect based on her timing, creates a different psychological impact. He becomes unpredictable in a way that is attractive, not confusing, because she can no longer control his emotional rhythm, and that creates curiosity in her mind. Why isn't he reacting the way others do? Does he not feel the shift, or is he choosing not to show it? Is he secure, or simply unaffected by me? And that uncertainty is where her interest deepens again, because attraction is not only about closeness, it is also about resistance that still feels safe. So when she slightly pulls her energy back, understand it is not always about losing you. Sometimes it is about managing how much she is starting to feel. She remembers small details you never expected her to remember. This is one of the most overlooked psychological signs that a woman is emotionally engaged, but not openly expressing it yet. She listens differently when she likes you. Not just to respond, but to store. She collects fragments of your life quietly, without announcing it. You might mention something once in passing, a childhood story, a preference, a fear you barely admitted. Weeks later, she references it casually, as if it was always part of her memory. And in that moment, something subtle happens inside you. You feel seen. But here is what most men misunderstand. This is not accidental attention. This is emotional tracking. When a woman is indifferent, she forgets quickly. But when she is emotionally invested, even lightly, she begins to build a mental map of you. Not because she is planning anything manipulative, but because attraction makes her curious. She wants to understand what kind of man you are beneath the surface behavior. And the more she remembers, the more emotionally involved she becomes without saying it directly. This is why her behavior may still look calm, even casual, but internally she is engaged in a deeper level of observation than you realize. She is connecting dots you are not aware she is collecting, and this creates another layer of the game. Because now, she is emotionally closer than she appears, while still maintaining distance in behavior. That imbalance is where confusion starts for most men. You feel connection, but you cannot fully define it. And instead of recognizing it as early attraction, men often try to force clarity. They ask questions too soon. They seek labels too early. They try to turn emotional tension into verbal confirmation. But women do not reveal interest in straight lines. They reveal it in patterns. And remembering details is one of those patterns. It is her way of saying, without words, I am paying attention to you more than I admit. And once you recognize this, you stop underestimating quiet interest. And when you start noticing this pattern without reacting emotionally, you begin to see the relationship dynamics for what they truly are. Not chaos, not manipulation, but structured attraction expressed in subtle psychological signals that most men overlook completely at first glance with time and clarity. She teases you in a way that feels slightly personal, not random. There is a difference between playful interaction and targeted teasing. When a woman is emotionally neutral, her humor stays general, safe, and socially open. But when she is emotionally engaged, her teasing begins to feel directed. It lands a little closer. It touches your personality, your habits, your reactions. And the strange part is, it doesn't feel like disrespect. It feels like attention wrapped in challenge. She might question something you said, but with a smile in her tone. She might lightly contradict you, but then soften it immediately. She might joke about you in a way that makes you think twice for a second, and then laugh it off. This is not random behavior. This is controlled emotional testing. Because teasing, in attraction psychology, is not about making you uncomfortable. It is about seeing how you handle being slightly unsettled without losing your composure. A woman who is not interested will not invest energy into playful challenge. She will keep things simple. But a woman who is curious about you will push small emotional buttons just to observe your reaction. And what she is really measuring is not your words, but your stability. Do you become defensive? Do you try too hard to impress her afterward? Do you over-explain yourself? Or do you stay relaxed, lightly engaged, and unaffected by the pressure of being slightly tested? Because here is the hidden layer most men miss. If you react emotionally, she learns she can influence your state easily. If you stay grounded, she becomes more curious because she cannot fully predict you. And unpredictability, when paired with calmness, creates attraction. Her teasing is also her way of lowering emotional distance without fully admitting she is doing it. It allows closeness without vulnerability. It gives her connection without exposure. And when you respond correctly, not by escalating emotionally, but by staying centered and even adding light humor back without over-investing, you shift the dynamic again. You are no longer just reacting to her energy, you are participating in it as an equal presence. And that is where attraction stops feeling like confusion and starts becoming a structured psychological dance where both sides are testing, adjusting, and silently evaluating the depth of what is building between you without either of you fully naming it yet. She looks at you and then quickly looks away when you notice. This is one of the most subtle but powerful signs that often gets ignored because it happens in seconds. Not in words, not in messages, in silence. In body language she doesn't even fully control. When a woman is not interested, eye contact is brief and forgettable. It serves no emotional function. But when she feels attraction, especially the kind she is not ready to openly express, eye contact becomes loaded with meaning. She looks at you longer than necessary, just enough to feel the connection form, and then she breaks it quickly, as if she caught herself doing something she wasn't supposed to do. And that moment of withdrawal is not rejection, it is self-regulation. Because sustained eye contact creates emotional exposure. It accelerates intimacy. It reveals feelings before she is ready to define them, so she controls it. She allows the connection to exist, but only in controlled flashes. And here is what most men misunderstand in that moment. They either ignore it completely, or they overinterpret it and try to force escalation too soon. But real psychological attraction sits in the middle space. It is not about rushing towards certainty. It is about recognizing the tension without breaking it. When she looks away quickly, she is not escaping you. She is managing what she feels when she is looking at you. Because eye contact is one of the fastest ways emotional signals become too real, too fast. And if she is still evaluating you, still testing emotional safety, still deciding how much of herself she can allow to feel, then breaking eye contact is her way of maintaining control over her internal state. But she will look again. And that pattern, look, hold, withdraw, return, is not randomness. It is repetition of curiosity mixed with emotional restraint. The mistake many men make is trying to win this moment by forcing more intensity, more confidence display, or more overt charm. But attraction at this stage is not won through escalation. It is stabilized through calm presence. When you are not overreacting to her gaze, when you are not trying to extract meaning from every second of contact, you communicate something powerful without words. That you are comfortable being seen, without needing to control how she responds to it. And in that space, her curiosity deepens. Because now the interaction no longer feels like a chase. It feels like a shared psychological awareness that neither of you is fully explaining, but both of you are clearly experiencing. She finds excuses to stay a little longer than necessary, even when nothing is being said. This is where everything becomes clearer, but only if you are paying attention to what is not being said. The conversation may be ending, the topic may be finished. There may be no practical reason for her to still be there, and yet she doesn't fully leave the moment. She might slow down her responses. She might add small extra comments that don't really need to be said. She might ask one more question that extends the interaction by just a few seconds, or she might simply stay present in silence instead of closing the exchange cleanly. And this is not inefficiency. This is emotional resistance to separation. Because when a woman has no interest, endings are clean. She disengages naturally. There is no lingering energy, no extended presence, no unnecessary continuation. But when she feels something developing, something she is still processing internally, she delays closure without consciously announcing it. She stays in proximity a little longer than logic requires, not because she is confused about leaving, but because part of her does not fully want to disconnect yet. And this is one of the most misunderstood dynamics in attraction psychology. Men often assume clear interest looks loud, obvious, and verbal. But in reality, early-stage attraction often expresses itself through hesitation in ending interactions, because ending means separation, and separation means facing the emotional weight of what was felt during the interaction. So instead of leaving immediately, she stretches the moment. Not dramatically, not intentionally obvious, just subtly. And if you react by trying to force continuation, more messages, more effort, more intensity, you distort the natural rhythm of that moment. But if you simply remain calm, unpressured, and allow the interaction to end without chasing it, something interesting happens. You become associated with emotional ease rather than emotional demand. And that is where attraction deepens in a quieter way. Because what she remembers is not just what was said, but how it felt to be around you without pressure, without urgency, without emotional collapse when the interaction naturally slowed down. And over time, these small patterns build something powerful. Not instant clarity, not obvious confirmation, but a growing internal recognition that being around you creates tension she does not fully resist, and does not fully want to leave either. And that is the real game most men never notice until it is already influencing the outcome.